These little fruit trees were planted last year. To be honest with you, these are the only ones that survived their first year in Oklahoma. This land was recently covered in snow, and now it's pretty muddy. But this mud is a result of the ground swelling with the moisture that will produce new life in the spring. The roots of these trees have been soaked deeply, and as we see in the scriptures over and over, water can bring both new life and chaos. We have heard many stories of the damage that the storms of winter have brought, but at the same time, we begin our walk to spring with the understanding that the ground is far ahead of where it typically is in 2021 because of all the snow. Our scripture this week is of a fruit tree, a fig tree to be exact, but it's not producing any fruit, actually much like these trees. Jesus tells us that the man who owns the tree says to cut it down because it is not serving its purpose. It basically has no value. But the gardener intervenes and says, "Let me tend it and nourish it with some manure." The manure provides pH and nourishment for the soil. It provides food for the tree so the tree can then produce more food. In my research, I discovered that new fruit trees take 5 to 8 years of waiting before the first fruits. Maybe this tree in the parable was newly planted and hadn't even reached its potential to yield fruit. Maybe the tree needed some nourishment and additional water for it to thrive. The owner shows his impatience with the process when he demands the tree be cut down. As people, we are not very patient. We are not good at waiting. When I asked if there was a waiting pile of manure for these young trees on this property, my daughter informed me that there was. But the manure must rest for 3 years before it can be used in the gardens. 3 years for the process of nourishment to complete. 5 to 8 years for the first fruits from the young trees. God has this amazing cycle of life built into creation, but it is clearly on a timetable that takes calm and patience. Why does Jesus tell this parable? Does he want us to realize that we are also like the tree and are just taking up space if we don't have any fruit to show? Or maybe we're like the gardener and he wants us to offer grace and nourishment for others so they can also produce some fruit. Or maybe we're like the master, unwilling to wait any longer for what we demand. Regardless, fruit trees have the inherent purpose of producing fruit. What is our purpose? Are we not also called to produce the fruit and even offer grace to those in our lives? As we tend our spiritual gardens, what things are we doing to inhabit patience and nourish life? What things need to be removed because they draw us away from the holy? Where can we show grace? These are the questions we must ask ourselves as we journey as God's beloved. Can people see the fruit that we're producing in our lives? Or do they wonder at our value?